Hey, how's everybody doing? Jeremy Langlois coming to you from Houmas House Estate and Gardens in one of my favorite places on the whole property. Well, I feel like I say that every week because there's so many places I like here at Houmas House. Every nook, cranny, and corner of this property is just so beautiful. If you've never been here before, by far one of the best kept secrets in all of Louisiana as far as just the most beautiful area in Louisiana. With that said, since we happen to be talking about it, post in the comments, what are some beautiful places you love in Louisiana? For me, my vote's Houmas House. Love to know what your vote is. With that said, let's go ahead and get cooking. So we're gonna do a salmon today. I absolutely love salmon, nice fresh salmon. We're gonna make a very simple tarragon sauce, and we're gonna just saute some potatoes. All these flavors go so great together. So first, let's just talk about the salmon. You can get this almost at any store. The thing about salmon, when you're at the store and you are shopping for it, you always want to make sure, you want to make sure it should have the thing about salmon is it's a very oily fish. So as it starts to age, the oils get stronger as well. So I don't like old anything, but old salmon in particular, well, you'll notice has a very strong smell. So salmon should really have no fishy smell, and then you're going to know you have a nice quality salmon, and then it's not going to have a strong flavor. It's going to have that nice, delicate flavor as well. So nice, good, fresh salmon. And what we're going to do is we're actually going to kind of do this steaming method that I'm going to show you is so easy to do, just right in a skillet, and salmon only takes minutes to cook. So why mess around? Let's get started with that. First, we're going to start off with the fillets. I'm going to hit them with a little bit of kosher salt and some cracked black pepper. Flip them around. We're going to catch both sides. I always like to season on a plate just like this because I will show you why. I like to go ahead and then you get all this little salt and pepper on the plate itself. I like to mop it up, as I like to say. Just get kind of move it around and get all that seasoning on it. And again, you'll notice it's almost always salt and pepper. That's all you need for most dishes, unless you're going for a certain flavor. Then you can, of course, add anything, but salt and pepper will almost always get you right where you need to be. We're going to use some herbs and some of our other our sauces that are going to complement this. So what I have here is I have a skillet that's been on, and it's nice and hot. And let's get some good olive oil in it. Not too much, but enough so our fish isn't going to stick. Really crank it up to high. We were looking to get a good sear on this. If you're using Teflon, anytime with fish, if you're using Teflon, you don't have to worry about sticking as much. But in a pan like this that isn't Teflon, if you don't get a good sizzle whenever you put that salmon down into the pan, then the fish itself might stick. So what I like to do is just have crank it up to high, and you can see right now I'm starting to get a little bit of smoke off of the oil. That tells me everything I need to know. The pot will always talk to you. Right now it's telling me it's ready. If I were to put oil in and there was a lot of smoke, well, what's it telling me? It's too hot. But right now, a little bit of smoke, got my salmon ready, and it goes. Nice, good sear, exactly where we want to be. We're gonna let that just start to sear. And what I like to do is just kind of give it a little nudge to make sure it's not sticking. And now we're just looking to get a little bit of color on it. Sometimes what I like to do when I have a little spoon available, I'll kind of sometimes baste some of that oil right there onto it, that excess olive oil onto the salmon, and it's just starting to get everything kind of cooking. I don't want to mess with it too much, but I do like to move it every now and then, just 100% make sure that it's not sticking, because it can stick. I got a little bit of stickage right there, good hot pan, moving it around. Now we're just looking to get some nice color. Now look, we're going to be cooking this fish in real time, so by the time that we have everything else ready, this salmon's going to be perfectly cooked. What we're going to do is once we got a good sear on the outside, we're just going to flip it over. And this is where the fun begins. Now let me show you how we're going to cook this. What we're going to do is I have a little bit of white wine. This is just some Pinot Grigio. You can use any white wine that you have, and I have some right out of the tap water. No big deal. And what we're going to do is you want to be careful here. I'm going to pull the pan off. And I'm going to add about a cup of wine and a splash of water. We're just pulling it off just to make sure there's no flame or anything like that. And I'm only adding enough liquid to maybe only come up about a little bit less than 1/4 inch from the fish. We're not drowning the fish, but we're just enough liquid to coat the bottom of this pan. Now watch this, guys. I have a skillet the same size, and I'm just going to put a little hat on, Crank it down to about a medium-high heat where it's still steaming. And now, this is cooking. We're going to let this cook just like this. This is going to hold in. You don't want to do this, but it's holding in all that steam. We want to keep all that steam in there. We're going to let that cook for about 6 to 8 minutes, depending on the thickness of your salmon. Just let it ride. If every now and then you can just kind of peek at it just to make sure nothing funny is going on. If you see it's getting a little dry, because that means the heat might be on, put a little splash of wine in it and just let it keep going. Now, let's go ahead and prepare our sides for this dish. I got just a little bit of butter. Now I'm going to start melting right here in a skillet. And here I have just some blanched fingerling potatoes. Fingerling potatoes, meaning that's the name they give. They're about the size of a finger. They're like little Yukon Gold potatoes. And when we say blanched, well, that's a restaurant term that we use. And what that means is I just split them in half and boiled them in some salted water for about 8 minutes. About the same time you do with this. What we actually do behind the scenes in the restaurant is we'll par cook the potatoes, and then what we do is we take them out and go right into ice water. Well, why do we do that? It's called shocking the potatoes or shocking your vegetables. You can do the same thing with asparagus. And the reason we do that is if I were to just put these potatoes out and wanted to use them later, well, the heat from them will allow the potatoes to still cook. But by submerging them into ice cold water bath, it instantly stops those potatoes from cooking. I can drain them off, and now I have these par cooked potatoes that I'm just going to kind of give a quick saute and some good old butter. Potatoes, butter, salt and pepper, can't beat it. So a little salt, a little pepper, give it a quick little flip, maybe crank up the heat so we get a little more sizzle, and let's let that go. I'm going to peek in on my salmon. Yep, it's doing its thing. Don't want to futz with it too much because we're trying to keep all that steam in. Now we're going to make our tarragon sauce. Now this is a cold sauce. Just like dill goes with salmon perfectly, several herbs really go great with salmon, and today we're going to be featuring tarragon. What's great about tarragon, if you've never had it before, is it has what's known as an anise flavor or licorice flavor, which really just gives this dish a nice kind of interesting kind of flavor that really goes great with the salmon. Tarragon and salmon pair perfectly together. So just to make this, watch how easy this is. Got a food processor. We'll start off with some mayonnaise. That goes in. And now we're just going to add our tarragon. This is going to be nice and green, almost like a green goddess. So a little bit of fresh parsley. Again, just we didn't chop it or anything like that, and just remove the stems from them. You might hear the salmon over here. It's popping away. That just means it's cooking and doing its thing. Let it go. We got some sliced chives. Chives go great with that. And also, the reason I like having chives is I'm going to come over here. I'm going to put some in there. What goes great with potatoes, chives as well. All these flavors work great together, so I'm going to add some chives to my potatoes while I'm at it. And then now I'm going to add some diced shallots. And again, I got them chopped up nice and fine. Well, since it's going in the food processor, you actually don't have to chop them up too much. And then all that's going to go great together. Now for a little bit of liquid, this is rice wine vinegar. You can use any vinegar you might have at in your kitchen. If you don't have rice wine vinegar, use apple cider vinegar, red wine vinegar, anything just to add a little bit of acidity is going to be fine. Let's come back and add a little bit of, I'm adding some Creole mustard. If you don't have access to Creole mustard in your area, it's very similar to whole grain Dijon mustard. If you can't find whole grain Dijon mustard, don't stress, add a little bit of Dijon mustard. All those are going to work perfectly together. Then once we're at this point, let's go ahead and give this a little whirl. We're just going to puree all this together, get it all mixing. That's looking great. Come back with a little more salt and pepper. Have it all seasoned up. And now we are working with something. Again, so incredibly easy. Mayo, vinegar, mustard, and just whatever herbs that you want to put in there. Got a bowl here. Let's get this out of here. And this you can make ahead of time. You can have your potatoes blanched off ahead of time, or if you just cook your potatoes right there on the stovetop, you'll notice they take about as long to cook as they do with the salmon. And then you can go right into a skillet with just that hot butter, and we're just looking to get some caramelization on it. Just nice little kind of nice brown crust. And now we are pretty much ready to go. We're going to take this off. So we did this all in real time. This took about 8 minutes to 6 minutes to cook. That's all you need. And now we are ready to plate. Let's come back to let's put a nice smear of this sauce on the plate, kind of right there in the front. We're then going to come and add a nice, because I like a lot of them, a nice mound of these potatoes. Right on top. Just really simple. And to finish it off, I'm going to put a piece of that salmon on top of there. And I reserve some of these chives. That makes a perfect garnish when they're kind of sliced right there. We're going to put a little chives on top. And there you go, guys. This is a pan-seared piece of salmon that was then braised in white wine with tarragon sauce and sauteed fingerling potatoes. Thank y'all so much for joining in, and we'll see y'all next week. Bye-bye.